Hello, everyone. My name is Kirsty Califano. I'm the Adult Services Programming Librarian at Wells Turner Library. Please note that this presentation is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the library's YouTube channel and distributed to all program registrants following the event. If you do not wish to appear in the recording, please keep your camera and microphone turned off for the duration of the presentation and consider changing your display name. Questions may be submitted through the chat at any time and will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. Chat questions will be read out loud anonymously and will not be attributed to individual participants. All right, so that's all from me. I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, and thank you to the Wells Turner Library for creating this opportunity for all of us to gather today and learn together. So welcome everyone. If you're just joining now, please type in the chat where you're joining from and what brings you here today, whether it's a personal or professional need, an interest, and if it is professional, what role? Are you social work, volunteer? Are you nurse? Doctor, lawyer, anything. Just let me know where you're joining from. I see a couple people have added their caregivers or learning for themselves. It's beautiful, really beautiful. It's such an important thing that we're doing today for ourselves and those that we love. So I want to acknowledge each and every one of you for making the time to be here. Showing up is already one meaningful step toward offering ourselves greater freedom of choice and offering the people we love the peace of mind of knowing that they can honor our wishes with confidence. Before we begin, I want you to know that today's presentation is designed to stand entirely on its own. My intention is for everyone to leave with greater clarity, practical tools, and at least 3 specific steps that you can begin taking immediately. At the same time, there's a lot of material if we wanted to go down that rabbit hole. After serving in hospice and palliative care for more than 30 years and walking beside thousands of individuals and families navigating illness, caregiving, aging, dying, and loss, I know that every person, every family, and every situation is beautifully unique. And because of that, I couldn't possibly address every question or circumstance in one brief hour. So today we're going to be focusing on the essentials, what matters most, where people commonly become stuck in the process, and what can help to prevent unnecessary confusion, conflict, and regret. And of course, the next steps that can offer the greatest clarity and peace of mind. So if you can think of today as a general roadmap to help you begin the process, this really isn't geared toward being like a detailed GPS directions for every possible turn that the journey might take. So before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. In the chat, if you could please share one word describing what you most hope to leave with today. Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's action steps, confidence, relief, direction, peace of mind, beautiful, or anything else that comes to mind, anything what's important to you today. Self-learning, beautiful, peace of mind, confidence, excellent. These are all really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. As we move through our time together, perhaps listening for ideas that speak most directly to what you wrote. And please also, if you're taking notes, please note anything that feels particularly important to your own individual circumstances, along with any questions that might arise. We'll have some time for questions toward the end, and we'll open up both the chat as well as unmuting everybody so we can talk a little bit more in detail. And I'll also share a way to receive more personalized guidance if that would feel helpful. So throughout this presentation, I'd like to invite you to listen for what's known as a 1-degree shift. If you've never heard of this before, it's kind of like if you can picture a ship, very large cruise ship crossing the ocean. If its course changes by only 1 degree, that difference may seem almost insignificant at the beginning, but over time, that ship can arrive in a very different place. The same may be true today. So you may not need every idea that I share. So please, take the best, leave the rest. If anything's overwhelming, just It's okay. Just taking a deep breath, and there will be opportunities to revisit that when you're ready. So there's no rush for any of this. I just want to make sure you have everything you need when you need it. But one insight, one conversation, one small action could place you on a clearer course and create a very different experience for you and the people that you love. So if you're taking notes at the top of your paper, please consider writing my 1 degree shift today. And if you're one of those people who likes check boxes, by all means, as we go through, think of action steps and make a check box if that speaks to you. Whenever you hear something that you can put into practice, write it there, okay? And if there's one message I hope you carry with you today, it's this: life happens, love prepares. Next slide, please. Preparation doesn't need to happen perfectly or all at once. We do it one document, one conversation, one choice, and one act of love at a time. Or, in keeping with today's theme, one duck at a time. By the end of this hour, my hope is that you'll have a clearer picture of where your ducks already are, which ones may still be wandering around, and which duck deserves your attention first. So, reflecting on all of your answers in the chat, one thing really stood out to me. Even though every story is unique, there's still one thing every one of us has in common. Every single one of us has someone who loves us, and every single person that we love will someday find themselves navigating change, illness, aging, loss, or uncertainty. Probably a combination of those if we're being realistic. And while none of us gets to choose whether life changes, we do get to choose how prepared we'll be, regardless of whether your family is biological or chosen. Those who experience the greatest peace are rarely the families who had the perfect circumstances. They're the families who had the conversations, who made decisions, and who shared their wishes, the ones who prepared. And don't get me wrong, preparation does not eliminate grief. It doesn't eliminate uncertainty either. But it often replaces confusion with clarity, chaos with confidence, and fear with love. It is possible to learn how to let go with love and find ourselves making more peace with the process than we ever thought possible. And we're not planning because we're afraid of life or death. We're planning because we love life and the people who share it with us. And that's why we're all here today. Not because we're expecting the worst, but because life happens and love prepares. So the big question is, you're getting a little sneak preview on the slide already. If preparation is one of the greatest gifts we can give, what's keeping so many of us from actually doing it? Why is it that so many caring, intelligent, loving people like all of you still find their ducks scattered all over the pond? So before we talk about how to get our ducks in a row, just by a show of hands, how many of you have ever thought, I really should get my ducks in a row, but then life got busy, right? Yeah. I'm guessing a lot of us because we're here. And many of us may have gotten started and then gotten distracted, or something else was more important, right, in that moment. So I get it. I get it. I've been there myself, and you are not alone. Our lack of preparation is not a reflection on how much we love our families. And it's not even about procrastination in the truest sense of the word. It's usually because life happens, and before we know it, our ducks are all scattered all over the pond. So today, let's gather them all together and make a plan to go forward. Sound good? Okay. So over the years, I've noticed there are 5 very common reasons, common patterns that tend to scatter our ducks. So we're going to take a good look at these. And as I mentioned before, none of them have anything to do with intelligence or how much we care. They're simply part of being human. So as we go through them, see if one or maybe more feel familiar. And if it does, please know you're not alone. All right, so duck scatterer number 1. Next slide, please. The after trap. Who here falls for the after trap? Guilty as charged. I know I do. I'll do it after the holidays, after vacation, after things settle down a bit, right? The problem is, as you've likely encountered, life never stops happening. It simply changes. And when we wait for the perfect time, we often find ourselves making important decisions at the worst possible time, right smack dab in the middle of a crisis, when we can't think clearly and when we can't find what we need. So, preparing isn't about expecting something bad to happen, it's about learning skills for creating more peace so that when life does take an unexpected turn, we can manage it, we can respond more clearly and more confidently. But sometimes the challenge isn't waiting. Sometimes it's something completely different. Next slide, please. Duck scatterer number two, analysis paralysis. I don't know about you, but this one really hits home for me. When our son was born, my husband and I needed to designate a guardian. And it was such an important decision that I literally couldn't make it. And I'm really embarrassed to admit that. But as a learning opportunity, I will share my own foibles. Um, every choice, everyone who came to mind as a possibility had wonderful qualities and challenges, mostly because everyone in my world at that time had so much going on already that I couldn't bear the thought of burdening them with even the mere idea of adding an orphaned child into the mix. So instead of making an imperfect decision, I made no decision at all. And this is particularly embarrassing because of what I do. And I shudder at the thought of what could have happened. So now I'm really grateful that we finally got our ducks in a row and averted some potential crises. Um, I eventually came to see that an imperfect plan is always better than doing nothing because we can always change it. That's the thing. These documents you're going to see, it's going to be super easy. These documents, they're yours. You own them. You can change them at any time. So we're going to work with you on this, not to worry. Sometimes I see this particularly with solo agers or other people who don't necessarily have any family or friends that they feel comfortable asking to step up to represent them as what we call a proxy. Um, they just come to that blank, whether it's their financial beneficiary or their healthcare representative, and they just stop dead in their tracks and say, well, I'll just come back to this later, and stick it in a drawer, and they never come back to it. This can also happen if you have family or friends to ask, but as in my case, they have their own health issues or challenges, and you may be concerned about burdening them or perhaps doubting their ability to step up in a pinch because we just don't know. There's so many uncertainties. So very often in that circumstance, it may actually benefit everyone involved if you appoint a paid representative whenever possible. There are a lot of ways to make this work, and you can get court appointed, public representatives. There's so many ways to make this work, whether you have the finances or not. But there are some wonderful solutions out there as well for solo agers. There's some communities literally called solo agers, and some church groups and other organizations that are starting to get together where people are offering to serve in this way for one another if they don't have family or friends to step in. So it's something to consider looking into. If you're an action-oriented person, please feel free to add that to your checklist. If not, that's okay too. The most important thing is that we keep moving forward. We learn all that we can, and we make sure that whatever we choose, that we follow through so that everything's in place. But before we even make decisions in our own mind, there's yet another hurdle that can potentially bog us down. The third thing that can scatter our ducks, next slide, please. Avoiding the conversation. It's so hard for us sometimes, not because we don't care. Of course we care. In fact, it's usually because we care too much for many of us, right? We worry. We don't think, we don't want to upset the people that we love. We worry about things like, well, what if they think I'm giving up? Maybe you've been in treatment for an illness or injury and you don't want them to feel like you're giving up because what would that mean, right? That can feel really heavy for a lot of families. Or you might think, what if they don't want to talk about it? What if it makes them uncomfortable? Or what if I say the wrong thing? So we wait. And unfortunately, as you've likely encountered, silence does not protect our families. It simply postpones the conversation until someone has to make that impossible decision without knowing what we would have wanted. So, one of the greatest gifts we can leave the people that we love is the confidence of knowing that they're honoring our wishes instead of carrying the burden of second guessing with doubt and fear, right? And even after we have the conversation, there's yet one more thing that catches many families by surprise. The fourth thing that scatters our ducks across the pond, next slide, please. Or actually, this case is it isn't, sorry, you're already up there. Is thinking that I already did that. Oh, I already did that. It's all set. I did it, right? We're good. And maybe you did do it. Maybe you've completed your documents maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Time flies. I've seen amazing old, outdated documentation, sometimes even before grandchildren were born, before losing a spouse, before retirement, before a diagnosis, before a divorce. Oh my gosh, the situations that come up in those circumstances, it's wild and woolly. Life changes, and our plans need to change with that. A plan isn't something we do once. It's a conversation that we come back to, we update as life unfolds. And then, of course, there's one final duck scatterer. The fifth thing that scatters our duck is, drum roll please. Actually, you can see it on your screen already. Give me a sneak preview. The last thing is, the last duck scatterer is thinking the paperwork is the plan. The paperwork matters. Don't get me wrong, it matters tremendously, but it's only part of the picture. And we'll be talking more about that as we go forward. But it's more important who knows your wishes, who will speak for you, who understands what gives your life meaning, your life on your terms, the way you want things done. What brings you comfort? What does quality of life mean to you? It's very different for each of us. We're all wired very, very differently. If you're married, if you have kids, if you have friends and family, maybe siblings, you've likely seen this firsthand. We all have very different wiring. So we process things differently. So we give things different meaning. So it's really important that whoever you ask to represent you, that they understand what's important to you. Because the best plans don't just organize documents, they prepare people. Okay, so we've talked about what scatters our ducks. Now we get to gather them all together so that by the end of the hour, you'll know exactly where to begin. Not 50 things, just 5. Next slide, please. 5 essential ducks that can make an enormous difference for the people you love and for yourself as you go through all these changes. Let's start with the first duck. Next slide, please. Your village. And I just have to put a disclaimer out there. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise, but I couldn't get the music to work. I wanted to pull out a full YMCA, but if anybody needs a stretch at this point, I know this can be heavy material. Now's your chance if you wanted to stand up or do a YMCA stretch if you'd like. Whatever you need to do, shake it out and stretch. Completely optional. But sometimes this material can get a little heavy, so it's nice to get a little shake break as you need it. So, your village, these are your people, the ones who know best, who can make sure you have everything you need and want. The people who can follow through, the ones, or at least one, who you can trust. And that one doesn't necessarily have to be the most knowledgeable or experienced person. It's not necessarily even the oldest child. It doesn't even have to be the person who lives closest. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. The right person, ideally, is someone who knows you well, or a representative, paid or legally appointed representative, that you can trust to follow through. Someone who can remain calm under pressure. Someone who can honor your wishes even if they would choose differently for themselves. And perhaps most importantly, someone you've actually talked with about this role and what it entails and where to find everything, making sure they understand all of it. Um, Making sure that they understand all of it is one of the greatest gifts that you can give. So if you have someone in mind, maybe even write down a name or a few names of people that you feel like you can trust with this to consider. Or if you can't think of anyone right now, maybe just writing down, give some more thought to who I can trust with this. Okay. Don't have to have all the answers right now. So the next duck is, next slide, please. The conversations. I know it says conversation, but that was a typo because this isn't just one moment of conversation, it's ongoing conversations, right? Whenever life changes, we want to make sure that we're updating all of our information and that everything is up to date and matches. So, in your documentation, for example, if you have set up a beneficiary with your bank or your 401k or anything like that, you want to make sure that the person named is the same one listed in other financial planning documents, right? As applies. And in some states, including Connecticut, we have this thing where you can write on your car registration, you can actually write on a little pull-out piece of paper a beneficiary for your car to avoid probate court. So if you live in Connecticut, you can fill out this form. It's called a TOD or transfer on death form. It's on your car registration. If you have trouble finding it, you can always call a DMV or contact a representative who may be able to help you find it, or even a friend, or call me. You want to make sure that that person listed also matches the person that you designated in your will if you mentioned your car in your will. And that if anything changes, so for example, if somebody that you listed moves away, or they're no longer driving, or living for that matter, make sure that you're updating that list to list someone who can actually receive it in order to help relieve them of that bogging down process of probate. Okay. So the people we love shouldn't have to guess. They shouldn't have to wonder, am I doing the right thing? They deserve the confidence of knowing this is exactly what mom wanted. And this is just what dad hoped for. And they can really have that good feeling, you know? What a shift. It's possible. The conversations don't just prevent conflict, they create clarity, they create confidence. The conversations are what give the paperwork a heartbeat and give our loved ones the permission and the time and space to simply love us. So rather than being worried about dotting every I and crossing every T, scrambling to find everything, they can simply be with us and share that quality time together. That's what's most important. Okay, so now comes the paperwork. Feel free to advance that slide. Paperwork matters. It can make all the difference. And it includes documents like your advance directive, healthcare representative, living will, durable power of attorney, and others that may apply to your situation. I'm going to be putting a very detailed slide, actually a few slides up. Please, please don't let this overwhelm you. This information is available publicly. I can point you in the right direction to find everything you need, okay? I add these because some people say, but I want the details, I want the steps. So this is for you if that's you. But please don't let it overwhelm you. During the Q&A, we can review it in more detail. I just want to respect your time. If somebody has a hard stop at an hour, you can take a screenshot. You could take a picture with your phone if you'd like, but you don't even have to do that because the library has been graciously, they've offered to send a recording of everything. So you can rewatch it. You can fast forward through stuff that doesn't serve. You can slow it down. You can pause and really take a good look at the parts that mean the most and are most important to you at that time. Okay. All right. And I should also put out a disclaimer. I'm just a nurse, right? And even this discussion, even this presentation, is just for educational purposes. The most important things that I'd love for you to take from today is that you know you have a general overview and that you know that for your advanced directives, you ask your doctor. They usually have those forms on hand, right? And if you need any guidance, just reach out. Happy to help. If you don't already have a financial last will and testament, consult your elder law attorney or your financial representative. Okay. Always ask your doctor, your lawyer, and your financial representative for any consultation, any advice. Okay. I'm just here as the messenger. All right. So that said, feel free to advance the slide. Let's take a look at that first one. I'm going to actually, yeah, we'll take a look here. Okay. So advanced care planning. That is the whole purpose of this, advanced care planning. Can anybody pick out the most important word? Advanced, right? Advanced or advanced. We want to do this in advance before when things are calm, right? That way we're not scrambling. That way we can focus on what matters most. But advanced care planning is just this. It's legal, medical, and personal decisions to ensure your wishes are honored if you can't communicate them yourself. Whether you're whether you're in an accident, you're injured, or you have a significant health situation going on, illness or injury, these step into play when you need someone to speak on your behalf to honor your wishes. You get to choose, right? A living will specifies your preferences for medical treatments, life-sustaining interventions, and end-of-life care. And we can talk more in detail about those specifics, but I don't want to overwhelm anyone. It's all in that paperwork that your doctor will hand you. It's important to educate yourself as much as possible and explore the value and beliefs and meaning of each of those decisions. But all of it's going to be in that paperwork. So you don't have to wonder, oh gosh, what if I'm forgetting something? It's all there. You just need to ask your doctor or healthcare representative for advanced care forms and your financial planner or elder law or estate planning representative for your financial and legal documents. Okay. And they can go from there. And if you don't want to go that route, I'm actually going to make it really easy for you. In the next, in a couple of slides, there's going to be some links to free resources online that you can actually ask your librarian to print out for you, that you can fill out in the comfort of your own home if you don't have a printer. So there's lots of ways to do this. The durable power of attorney for healthcare grants authority to your chosen proxy, your person, right, to make decisions aligned with your wishes. These help you document your goals and your values. So it's important to reflect on your personal beliefs and what types of medical treatments you do or do not want. So I did list a couple there. So there's the DNR, which is do not resuscitate, the DNI, which is do not intubate. There's IV for fluid, there's feeding, and we can talk more about those aspects if you'd like. At the end, I'd be happy to go into more detail. But the most important thing with that is, again, get the forms from your doctor or print them out. The other piece, you know what, I am going to mention this just because it comes up so often. If you choose not to be resuscitated, you need to make sure to have a signed copy that's signed by you and your doctor and witnessed on your person wherever you might need it. So you might need a copy on your fridge. You might need a copy in your car. Some people have wallet size. Some people even get bracelets that either a nurse or doctor would apply, or you can get those nice engraved ones, so that if 911 is ever called on your behalf, sometimes people call even during hospice. Sometimes people panic and because they don't know what a natural dying process looks like, and or they just, they have a knee-jerk reaction. So it's important to be prepared for any situation. If you know in your deepest heart of hearts that you do not want to be resuscitated, make sure you have that form, make sure you have a bracelet. That's your best chance to have that everywhere you go, the best chance of having your wishes honored. If you know you have a significant illness or circumstance where you may be going into surgery or you may be traveling across state lines, the MOLST or POLST, depending on your state, covers you more than just a do not resuscitate order. So definitely, if that's something important to you, if you want specific things done more or not done more than your DNR, consult with your doctor. This is more than we can possibly go into in this talk. However, know that it's available. And we can talk more if you have questions later. So it's important also to consider, where would you prefer to receive end-of-life care? Do you want to be at home? Do you want to be in a hospital or a care facility? And how do your spiritual or cultural beliefs influence those decisions? So all of those pieces, it's important to talk with our people about that, right? To make sure they understand and even put in writing what your wishes are. And that said, having a flexible plan so that no matter what comes up, your people can have whatever they need along the way. So they're not burning out. So they're going to do their very best to honor all of your wishes, but that they can care for themselves in the process, and be, able to attend to changes that might come up. Sometimes most things can be handled in a home setting. In hospice, it's very rare that we ever have to send someone to a hospital, but good to have some flexibility, and know what our options are along the way. Okay, next slide, please. Financial and estate planning. So your will, living trust, or will power of attorney, again, consult your attorney, consult your financial planner, and keeping all your documents in a secure, accessible location. Ideally, you want a fireproof, safe, or designated file, waterproof. That's ideal. Anybody ever heard of a knockbox? Next of kin, NOK. I'm going to show you what some people make their own. They have a do-it-yourself knockbox that they can keep their documentation. They can keep, I even know someone who wrote letters to her loved ones, and maybe had gifts put together, or even favors. I know it sounds weird to say party favors. Some people have funerals instead of funerals, celebrations of life. Some people want to give their loved ones something that they made. Or some people want to choose the urn that their cremains are placed inside of. So they choose all of that in advance, so there's no guesswork, and they put that in their next of kin box, and they let someone know where they can find that knockbox. So that's an option as well. Please, please, please don't let all of this overwhelm you. You go at your pace. We're here for you every step of the way. I err on the side of too much information, but I'd rather you have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So taking a deep breath. Okay, very good. So, most important, giving permission to your caregiver to communicate with your doctors, lawyers, insurance providers, financial institutions. That's where a power of attorney can come into play, and healthcare proxy. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, if you are a go-getter and you feel like I don't want to wait another day, there are free forms available online. You can ask your friendly librarian to help you print these out if you don't have a printer at home. But AARP, conversation project, caring info, even if you just Googled free advanced care forms, you'll have tons of links. You'll have tons of things available. Just always be careful if they ask for your personal information. That might not be the right site for you, right? For the healthcare piece, at least, that's free. You shouldn't have to give any private information. You just print out the forms, you fill it out, and have witnesses to sign it. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, duck, duck, goose. I know some of you are going to be like, what on earth is she doing? But let's face it, life is short, and so are our attention spans, or at least mine. So if this got very heavy, this is your escape plan. At least I didn't put the chicken dance on, right? Could have been worse. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. Um, so back to the ducks. The next duck for real this time actually does take everyone by surprise. You can advance the slide. It's not about legal documents, it's about everyday life. It's the questions families ask at 2 o'clock in the morning that go something like this. Where in the world does mom keep her keys? And what the heck does this key go to? Or does anybody know what dad's phone passcode is? I don't know about you, but I use a Face ID on my phone. A lot of people use fingerprint scanners on their computers too, instead of passcodes. So it's so crazy. I hadn't even realized that this was a potential roadblock until this past year, and I'm a professional. So there's just so many things like that. We can't know what we don't know, right? But that's one of the main reasons that I do these presentations to make sure that we can educate the community about these potential pitfalls so you can avoid the traps and have the smoothest journey humanly possible. There's just so many things. Things that we don't even think about, like who feeds the dog? What does the dog eat and when? Who waters the plants? Where are the insurance papers? How do I pay the bills? Who needs to be notified? Now, I'm not mentioning this to bog you down and overwhelm you. It's an awareness piece. We can always come back to it, right? But writing these details down that we take for granted can make a world of difference. And it gives the people that we love more space to be with us and each other instead of chasing paperwork, work, and passwords, right? Are you still with me? Everybody good? We're good. Okay, no geese this time, I promise. But there's just so much. So we've gathered the right people. We've had the important conversations. We've completed the essential documents, perhaps. We've organized the everyday practicalities, writing down all those passwords and all the authentication codes, the source, the emails that all of those belong to, right? We've got all our ducks in a row. So now you might be thinking, okay, well, my ducks are finally in a row. And in many ways they are, but there's still one final duck. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the most important one of all. Next slide, please. Duck number 5 is making room for what matters most. That's the most important piece. When so much of the practical has been lovingly tended to, we can create more space for presence, more space for connection, and more space to simply love. And one of my favorite things to do is to share with individuals and families ways that they can make this time together mean just that much more. Knowing what to expect during a natural dying process can make a world of difference. Understanding the symptoms, understanding how things may unfold given certain diagnoses or certain disease progression. So that we're not panicking over something that's just part of the natural process. So we're not sending our loved ones to the emergency room just to be returned home because there's nothing more that they can do for them. We want to avoid that bumpy road to the hospital if that's their wish. The stress and panic on everybody's faces, nobody needs that. Nobody wants that, not ever, but especially when their focus is so much on feeling safe and feeling loved. That's our goal here. I've had the privilege of sitting with hundreds of people in their final hours, and I never once heard somebody say, I wish I spent more time organizing my paperwork, which sounds funny considering what we just talked about. But despite how much it can get in the way if it's not prepared properly, in those moments, what they do talk about is the people that they love, their memories, the memories that they shared, the moments that mattered, the things they wished they'd said, and the things that they're really grateful they took the opportunity to say. It's not really about paperwork at all. It's about making sure that the paperwork doesn't get in the way of things that matter most. I often say that we're not planning because we're afraid of life, or planning because we love life and the people who share it with us, and the pets and the plants and all of that, right? And maybe that's the greatest gift we can leave, not simply organized documents, but organized lives, relatively speaking, of course, but at least ones that allow for space for love to remain at the center of the focus. So I'd like to leave you with one question. If everything practical were lovingly taken care of, how would you choose to spend that precious time? Who would you call? What conversations would you have? What stories would you tell? What songs would you play? Any music lovers out there? I literally have a soundtrack for life that I'm curating over time. And yeah, we'll look at the link after for sure, not to worry. And music does more than just soothe the savage beast. Music can be such a blessing, especially at end of life, when hearing's the last sense remaining. It's one of the most important things that I make sure that all of my clients know. Even if somebody seems like they can't see you, sometimes eyes are wide open, but they're not registering what they're seeing. Even if they're not responding to your touch. Touch, it's so hard. In our culture, we always talk about, oh, it's so important, just hold their hand. And that can be wonderful. That can be wonderful. If somebody's receiving tactile input, oh my gosh, especially if they're affectionate, that can mean so much to reassure them, right? But sometimes during the process, the nervous system can become overwhelmed. It can go on the fritz, and sometimes touch can become sensitive or even painful, or even fall away entirely. But even when someone's not responding to touch, they can still hear. Hearing is the last sense remaining, and we know this. Scientific research has shown us that even when someone's in a coma, there are stories where someone wakes up from a coma 10 years later and they still remember every single word that was said at the bedside. So I always encourage families, at the very least, to try their very best to keep the environment nice and calm and quiet and peaceful, and to take any emotionally charged conversations out of earshot. And if somebody likes music, ideally having music without commercials. Very often I'll go into hospital rooms or even houses, and people mean well. They think like, oh, well, it'll be good for them to hear voices from the TV. Maybe that'll reassure them that they're not alone. But meanwhile, there's like a crime series or commercials or even movies about like zombie apocalypse, all this stuff. So being really mindful of this, we don't realize it sometimes, but to someone in that liminal state, especially as they're getting very close to end of life, where they have one foot in this world and one foot in the other, sometimes what they're hearing, they may get confused about it and think it's actually happening. And that can be really terrifying. So being really mindful of that, these little things can make a world of difference. And that said, we can really lean into that sense of hearing. Music can be so beautiful. And there's ways to take it to the next level where even if they're struggling with symptom management and ambient sound, ambient noise and music, and your voices aren't landing the way that we hope to, it's not connecting across that big abyss, right? But we have these beautiful proprietary practices at Heart Space that engage everyone around the bedside, connecting in a deep and meaningful way, integrating your own individual beliefs and traditions, creating a family heirloom, as it were, because you've shared so much throughout life, and now you get to share this part too. So it's my hope that at least these conversations may have helped you to consider those questions, those possibilities. And you don't need to find all the answers immediately or perfectly for that matter. And just by taking those first steps to explore meaning, that can make all the difference. So every duck that you gather creates a little bit more room for what matters most. So you may be wondering, well, where do we go from here? I mean, we only have 1 hour together today, and there's so much we can cover, right? But if today has shown you that it's time to gather your ducks, I hope you've been taking notes. If you're ready to take action, if you haven't come up with at least 3 action steps, please talk to me afterward. Happy to help guide that process, as well as offer you an opportunity to join me at another occasion for a free personalized peace of mind planning session. We'll meet you where you are, answer any questions you might have unique to your own individual circumstances for yourself and your family. We can explore resources and help you to transform what often feels overwhelming into something that feels manageable, meaningful, and even empowering. Because sometimes it's counterintuitive, but sometimes that certainty of checking those boxes, of knowing that you have those pieces in place, can be very, very empowering, provide a little bit more security and certainty that you're looking for. But even if you choose to fly solo after our discussion or after our planning session, you'll have a head start with a personalized roadmap that you get to keep for yourself to focus your energy on what's most meaningful to you and your family. And once you have those pieces in place, I can share from personal experience what a relief it is to know that you have all your ducks in a row. And that you know how to update, and you can schedule yourself to update those pieces as things change. So in the end, you'll have much more than just completed documents. You'll have greater clarity, greater confidence that you know you're doing the forms right, and that you have everything that you need, and perhaps more importantly, greater peace of mind. So I'd be honored to serve as a guide for you and your family if that interests you and you'd like to learn more. If you could advance the slide, please. There's going to be a QR code on the screen, and I can actually put up a link in the chat that you can click on directly. Let's see if this works. That if my website's working, should take you directly to the Get in Touch button on our website. If it's down, that happens from time to time, sometimes refreshing the browser. But if you could get stuck at all, I'll leave the screen up for now, and we'll unmute in a little bit to do some Q&A, and we'll open up the chat. And if anybody gets stuck on the technology, please don't worry about that. I'm happy to stay after. Heck, I'll even give you my personal cell phone number. We can talk. We'll make this work, okay? So don't get bogged down in the technology. So let's open it up if we're able to unmute everyone.
Yep. So the QR did work for me. So if you had a problem, anybody just try it again. It should work. I will also put that link in the follow-up email that I'm sending with the recording, so you'll have it there as well. I am going to, let me just get everybody able to unmute. Just give me 1 second.
And while she's doing that, maybe looking through, if you're taking notes, have a look through, see if there was anything that I might have missed or you had questions about. You need a little bit of clarification or anything specific to your needs. I'd be happy to address that. Okay. So who here has questions? Are you able to unmute yourself?
You should be able to unmute yourself now.
And or you can type it in the chat. That's okay too. If you have your microphone or your camera off, that's fine. I'd be happy to address any questions that come up in the chat as well. And if there's no questions, any insights, any comments, like any aha moments, like, wow, I hadn't realized that. Maybe the way something was presented or pieces of it you were finally able to integrate, to put together for yourself. Any insights, comments? Who has questions? There's got to be somebody.
I have a question.
Oh, hi, Diane. Nice to see you.
Yeah. What is the difference between a irrevocable and a revocable?
Oh, for trust?
For trust is
So that is a better question to present to an estate planner. That is not my role.
okay.
There are specifics that I want to make sure you're hearing it straight from a professional who knows that in detail. I don't want to give you misinformation.
Okay,
I wish
great.
I could offer that, but I'm not in that field at all.
Yeah, great, thank you.
But put that on your checklist. Consult with
Yeah,
your financial advisor or elder care. Did you have any other specific questions about what we covered?
um, I have a lawyer, but not an elder lawyer. He's not an elder lawyer.
Yeah.
So
I will say the one thing that I do know from my own personal experience is that there are ways to include in your estate plans a trust that you can put all of your property, all your assets into that can protect your loved ones from having to go through probate court. A general will, people still have to go through probate. If you have a trust, my understanding, again, consult with your attorney or financial advisor. My understanding is that the trust, you put all the things in it, the trust owns those things, and it is more easily transferred to your loved ones so you don't have to go through probate. I
yeah,
hope that provides some clarity. In terms of the wording, I'm not certain, so I don't want to give
yeah.
you
Okay,
misinformation.
great. Yep, thanks.
Sure. Who else has questions? Okay, I see there's a couple bits. Thank you. My questions might be sharing hearts. Okay, hold on. Okay, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Advice on how to approach loved ones who are not willing to deal with being prepared. Oh, I get this question every time. And all right, there's two pieces to this. One is that the most important thing to consider is what we talked about at the beginning. This is not one size fits all. In order to really delve into that question thoroughly, that's actually effective in your unique situation, I'd have to get a better sense of who that person is, what their values and beliefs are, how they're wired, their personality, their energy style, all of those factors, the communication style, right? All of those factors play into how they're going to receive the conversation or the invitation, I should say, the invitation to a conversation. We can't force someone to talk about it. I wish we could. Sometimes it'd be so much easier. But we're human beings and we just don't operate that way, for better or worse, right? That said, there absolutely are skill sets that we can learn to help us to initiate, to invite people to those conversations. And once they accept, if they choose to accept our invitation, how to have that back and forth listening and reflecting instead of reacting, right? Or even responding. Most people need to be heard first before they're able to listen. And that is a really, really hard lesson to wrap our brains around, but it's the nature of our humanity. I'd be happy to talk with you more about your specific situation. If I can be of any help, I'm happy to. But that's a crux of it. So it is not easy. We are very complex creatures, but I hope that helps at least point you in the right direction, or at least give you some grace. Allow yourself to give yourself some grace that a lot of it is out of our control. And there are skills that we can learn. So if you're interested, happy to help with that. How can I find a representative? Wait, this isn't, hold on, can't see the whole picture. How can I find the representative with you don't have, wait a second, if you don't have, I think that's what it says. If you don't have, part of it's blocked. How to find a representative if you don't have or want to use a relative or friend? Okay, that's an excellent question. Okay, so from my understanding, you could consult with an elder law attorney. I had a client recently who lives alone. He is a very independent private person, and he was very lucky that he has a very dear friend who happens to be an elder law attorney. Years back, he appointed her as his power of attorney, as his healthcare proxy, as his go-to person for everything. And even put in this thing, I forget exactly what it's called, but there's a fancy word for it, where he's still alive and he's still able to speak for himself, but he can still put her in place, give her the power to help him with his finances, because he got to a point where um, during his illness, even though he's a very bright person, he had a lot of difficulty focusing. He had trouble with what we call executive functioning, which basically means knowing the steps, prioritizing the steps to put things into action. So he knew what he needed to do, but he just couldn't keep his attention focused on the pieces to connect the dots and make it happen. So at that point, I was able to encourage him to, because I saw what was happening. I was able to, as his nurse care manager, I was able to suggest that this might be the time to contact and consult with his elder law attorney, and put that piece into place. So he did that. And within a couple of days, she was able to pay his bills. She was able to make sure he had everything that he needed. So there are ways to do that. And again, that's not my field, but that's where you would find it. I hope that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, the term you might be looking for is financial power of attorney. Yes, yes. And that can come in many different ways, right? It could be a friend, family member, community member, could be a paid appointed person or court appointed person. But any elder law attorney can help you find that. Okay. Any other questions for right now? I know it's a lot of information. I wanted to make sure you have everything you need. And please know that you are not alone in this process. Please keep my information. If you want to stay on after they turn off the recording, I'd be happy to give you my cell number to text or call. Just know that it is not for, urgent or emergency situations. That would be 911 or 211. But if there's something that I can help with, I'd be happy to. If I'm not able to help you, I'm happy to point you to some resources that may be able to. Okay. If there's no other questions, I just want to thank you all so much for joining in today. I hope that this helped, and I hope we'll have opportunities to meet again in the future. If you join us for the planning session or any other time, know that I'm here as a resource. All right. It was so wonderful meeting all of you today. Thank you so much. And thank you to the library and Kirsty for all of your help. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Did you want to turn off the recording and then we'll see if anybody has any private
Sure.
questions? Okay, thank you.